Hey, everybody. Welcome to the B Channel podcast, where my objective is to bless, edify, and encourage others to live their best lives. And today's topic is what that wallet do. And we are talking to Anthony Weaver. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Anthony Weaver, and I am the host of the About That Water podcast, where we help you build strong financial habits so that you can build that confidence in talking about money, spending money, or even just enjoying your money. So, this is all that we talk about.
Okay, that is amazing. So, my first question for you is what did you learn about money growing up?
Well, one of the things I learned about money growing up is how in the world do I make money? Because, growing up in I guess, impoverished lifestyle, I mean, I didn't really know it was impoverished. I just thought everybody went through the same thing. Whereas we used to have wish sandwiches, which means that you wish you had something in between the pieces of bread. You know what I'm saying? So, like, toast the bread, you put some butter on it, maybe get some syrup if there was any left. And when I'm talking about syrup, I'm not talking about the basic syrup that pour out nice and easy. No, I'm talking about the king syrup. And for those of you who are old enough, know that king syrup is like thick. I mean, you have to boil
Mm,
it in a pot in order for it to come out, pouring it out nicely. So that's what we had to do when I was younger. To the point where I even remember going to the mall late at night or after school or something like that. Come to find out was that my mom just didn't pay the bill for the gas and electric. You just come home, the light switch wasn't working, and we'll go out to the mall just to kind of get some air, some AC because it's hot during the summers. So understanding like what money can provide is one of those things that I grew up on. It's just learning like, hey, money allows you to do certain things, and but also I learned that money does not also bring you happiness. It really depends on how you view life and view um just in general. Like, do you feel happy? Do you have at least your amenities, the things that make you happy? And as they say, happiness is a choice. We can choose to be happy, but money doesn't have to bring you that. And that's one of the things that I grew up just learning about money.
mm. That is so profound what you said though, because a lot of times people will say, I'll be happy when I have this amount of dollars or whatever. But some of the happiest people really are those people that you see in those other countries. Sometimes they're just dancing around, they're jubilant because they're grateful. It makes them more grateful because they don't have things. And it's they have to make the best of it. They have to improvise, like you said. And it's like, money is about security. That's one of the things that I learned. It's about security, but it cannot, you know, um, cover up your insecurity. Like if you have insecurity emotionally, it's not going to fix it. It's not going to be an end all
Hmm.
be all. So I really agree what you said about it not making you happy.
Yeah. I mean, let's think about it. Like money itself, just thinking about it, some people will get an anxiety about it. And it can be really super stressful. It's everywhere. It's everywhere we turn. It's something that it's a lifestyle. Like in this society that we live in, we need to have money. But just implementing a few like key financial habits, you can really take control and just kind of achieve all of your financial peace of mind that you deserve in time.
So I will circle back to that later, but I want to ask you right now, what is the worst mistake that you ever made with money?
Well, just going by definition of mistake is more so think about it from hindsight 2020. So, I mean, I'm gonna answer your question, but it's just like just understanding when people say mistake, it's more so like, oh, I wish I could have or I should have or something like that when it comes to a mistake. And usually the things that I did it based on the information that I had, the environment that I was in, and also the knowledge that I had at the time. So I would say the biggest mistake so far, I would say, is actually purchasing a property that I was thinking as an investment property, because I did not do enough research on it. But I know that now is a mistake. But at the time, I was like, oh, okay, I interviewed enough people to know about the real estate game, and I was able to get in nice and easy. But think about it as like a arrow, like an arrowhead. So it's easy to pierce, but when you try to pull it out, it rips out at the same time. So think about it that way. So think about real estate the same way. It's like it's easy to get in, easy to get the property and everything like that. You pay the mortgage, you pay in the light bills, stuff like that. You thinking, okay, well, I'm a little renter in there, and I'm gonna get all this money. And like, no, it doesn't work that way. You get in there, everybody gets paid before you do. And I found out the hard way. It's like the contractor getting paid, the realtor getting paid, the banks are getting paid, credit cards are getting paid. Like everybody getting paid before you put somebody in there. And then you have to think about if you want to get it furnished for Airbnb or something like that, you gotta pay the people to actually get it furnished. Like so many things are happening in the background that a lot of people don't talk about before you even start to see income. And then when they talk about when they sell the property, they don't talk about the amount of money that they pay for the mortgage. They just talk about the overall, like, hey, I bought it for this price, I sold it at this price. But what about the price, the incremental prices that came up? Meaning like the mortgage, the light bill, the gas and electric, or any other additional expenses, water that came up. They don't put those into calculations, or they call it the capex usually. So you'd be surprised. Usually they don't talk about those.
Mm. You just shed so much light. And I love what you said because a lot of times you really do feel like it's something good and you feel like you did your due diligence. And it's you still can run into problems. I've watched so many of those shows on HGTV where people are flipping things and they're not taking into account, and then somebody has to like bail them out. They have shows now where people actually have to bail people out of the situations to try to rectify and salvage the situation so that they can be solvent, you know. And I really appreciate what you said because it's so deep. There's so many costs that people don't think about. And like you were saying about utilities, just think about that. If you live somewhere like Minnesota where it has really cold winters, or you
Mm.
live somewhere like Miami or somewhere like in the deep south where it's really hot in the summer, those utility bills as far as electricity and the gas have to be astronomical. So you really do have to take that into account when you're buying the properties. Like, where are you going to buy? How is the weather? What is it like in terms of, are there hurricanes, natural disasters? You got to factor so many different things into it, and like have way more than you think you need to have in terms of like you like you said, you got to buy the furniture, then you have to like hire people to fix the house up if it's a fixer upper, and they have fees, and then things happen that you cannot foresee.
Mhm.
So, woo.
Yeah, it keeps going because thing about it, even in because the property is in DC. One of the things I did not know until I was doing research, far as renting, is that AC is a what they call it, a commodity or an amenity. Like AC is not mandatory in DC. Like if you wanted AC in your unit, like you can actually, like, you don't have to get it as a renter. You can ask for it, but it's not mandatory for a landlord to provide
Oh.
it. So you need to learn also, like, what is the mandatory minimum for your particular area.
Right, as a consumer and as somebody who is thinking about being a landlord, get into that whole Airbnb type situation like you were trying to do. That is so important because like people, there are certain things that they expect as like a luxury, and but to some people it's like, oh no, this is the bare minimum.
Right.
So you have to really understand what the perspective is culturally too with those things.
Hmm. Definitely, because you don't want to get caught by somebody trying to sue you for not having something when you got to pull up the laws. I know we talk about this mistake, but one of the things that I did when I was doing my research was actually looking at the courts and actually looking at landlord courts, and those are publicly available. You can just go online. A lot of the courts are doing them via Zoom. And you can just sign up and just listen in, or even just go to your local courthouse and actually sit in inside one of those landlord courts, because the most important thing about it is that you want to know the industry, the good and the bad, and also in your particular area that you go into. So these are additional things that I've done it, but it's just that I kind of wish that more people would talk about it.
Oh, yes. That is so deep. That's such a gem because you know how many people would know about something like that, but how many people are going to go the extra mile to
Yeah.
actually do that kind of intense research and you kind of like that recon on what
Yes.
they're trying to do. So that is definitely for those, what do you call it? Like one percenters, the people that want to go above and beyond and be
Hmm.
really prepared because now let's be real. A lot of people are not going to do all that, but that's beautiful to know that you can actually sit in and be able to witness some of the things, the pitfalls that may happen as someone that wants to be a landlord.
Yeah. I mean, you most of us have rented at least once before, and we know what we like to have, what we don't like to have. We don't want to be that landlord that doesn't have the ear of the tenant and actually not listening, or what do we allow the tenant to do, what they don't do, what type of, because then it goes even for. I mean, there's so many different things to go into this, but I don't want to go too far
Yes.
off topic because we can talk about real estate. At least my
Yes.
lessons learned.
That's probably a whole nother
Yes.
discussion. But what do you feel like is the best lesson that you have ever learned about money?
One of the best lessons to learn about money is awareness. And reason why I say awareness is because a lot of the times, and even with the people that my clients that I assist, is that most people don't know where their money's at. And when it came to me, I know how to make some money, but I just didn't know how to compound it. I didn't know where it was at, where it was going, as far as like credit card bills, was it light bills, what was I spending it on, mostly food? How can I do different things? So I was surviving, I was living, thinking I was doing something, going out to the clubs and stuff like that. But really sitting down and jotting down where my money is at, like what are my investments? What are my credit card bills? The interest rates on each of those. Um, what am I actually paying for mortgage or rent? Well, actually, it was rent at the time. And then what am I paying for car maintenance? Like these are the things that I actually sat down and did, and it's been really helpful uh, for me as just trying to figure out what is the major pain points.
Wow, yeah, that those are such simple things that you said. And like I said, we're going to continue a little bit more of that conversation, but I have to ask you something that really could be a pain point in this money world. Whether it's with friendships, whether it's with relationships of a romantic nature, how do you handle those types of conflicts that may arise when it comes to money?
You got to set boundaries in the beginning. So dealing with the pain points of a relationship, and I've been through a long term relationship, and having an understanding of what it is to help somebody without knowing that they're still going to take advantage of you. So one of the things that I had, like my ex was actually trying to go through her, build her credit. And I was like, cool. Well, my credit score isn't that great, but it's better than yours. So I was like, let me add you as a authorized user on one of my credit cards so that it can
Uh-oh.
boost the credit. Right. You already know where
I
that's
can see
going.
where this is going.
You already know where it's going at. So,
That's one thing with children, but
yeah.
a spouse or date, that's a whole different story.
Right. And it's not even a spouse, and that's the whole other story. Yeah. So, setting up those boundaries of saying, like, hey, if I add you as an authorized user, I'm holding the card. And then just to help you out, I'm not going to give you a card. My thing was that I actually gave the person the card, and I wound up having to pay the bill when the relationship was over with. So my credit score dropped
She never
dramatically.
paid you back.
I I rather have peace of mind than trying to worry about trying to chase somebody down for some money.
I hear that. You
So,
know what they say though, when you offer to do something for somebody financially, you better just assume that that was a gift and
yeah,
just like cut your losses because
mhm.
that's a hard thing to try to get money back. It really
Definitely.
is.
Yeah, it's like how can you? I don't know. But it comes back to the mentality thing. And also that's why, like, you have to set your boundaries. You have to know what you're willing to give up and just be okay with losing. And just look at it like, hey, you know what? They did you dirty, but that will be the last person. And sadly, most of the time, most of us are gonna have to learn it out the hard way instead of us trying to figure it out, trying to set all these boundaries. No, these are my boundaries. No, just say it's okay to say no.
Right.
And also you have to one of the things that I found out is that I had to create my new zero. And what I mean by creating my new zero, say, meaning like how much money I have in a bank, considering like, okay, I can give away this amount. So if my minimum, just for an example, if you out there, you got a buddy that's asking for money or a child that's asking for money, you can be like, hey, like once you get to $1,000 in your bank account, then it's like, all right, cool. Anything extra I can give out to my child or give out to something else. And it's not like you're giving out to charity, pretty much it feels like it. But what I'm saying, you can help out in that way and realize that, hey, this is just set aside because I know somebody's gonna ask me for money. Just to live
Mm.
with it. Yeah. You can set up a whole nother bank account for it, just a high yield savings account. Just go and throw
Yeah.
that money up over there. Be like, all right, cool. It's $100 sitting in there. Nobody ain't asked me for it this month. All right, let me throw another 100 in there and just build it up that way.
That is an amazing idea, really, because then it's like, okay, I am not attaching myself to this money that tightly. This is a portion of my money
Hmm.
that I am willing to share and not get emotional
Right.
about what happens as a result of me giving it out.
Hmm.
And it's good to practice giving too. It's good to, donate and things like that, and to causes that you really care about. So that's important as well. So I really like that idea. Had it little, set to the side, because then it's like, oh, that way you're also organizing too.
Right. I
So
see
it's
your
not
your wheels are
touching your
rolling.
money.
Your wheels are rolling. Like, oh, this is great. Right.
It's not touching your money. That's
Right.
separate. So it's like
Exactly.
that is a true boundary. Talk
Yeah.
about boundaries. Like,
And then you can keep the interest because if you put in a high yield savings account, it's like, all right, cool, $40, but that $40 could be the interest that you got on that $100 because ain't nobody asked you for it in some time. So
mm,
yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of like it's a rainy day fund for other people.
Hmm. Right.
I like that though. I really like that idea, because you just never know, because people be having hard times, and I feel like like I feel like with money, it's very emotional, but if I can help somebody in a small way, I'll do it. But honey, it's like a certain threshold. I'll be
Right.
like, hold up now, not that much. I can give a
Right.
little bit here, but a certain amount, I'll be like, no, because you'll feel it. Like, you don't want to give if if it's going to hurt your pockets, where you can't do what you need to do for your household.
Hmm.
So that's important to remember too, y'all. Like, don't give if you're gonna be hurting your household and y'all can't keep your lights on. You
Right.
over here giving to everybody else. Make
Yep.
sure your household is straight. Then you can help other people.
Like the airport always say, when you get on the plane, for those of you who haven't flown yet, is they always tell you put your gas mask on first before you help others.
Yeah, because then you won't be outside homeless,
Right.
and that's not cute. Who wants
Right.
to do that?
They're like, "Oh, you the best giver ever," yet you run
No,
around
in a
homeless.
cardboard box.
Right.
No, this is not the move. Okay.
Right.
So we have to really make sure that we when we give our money, we're mindful of that. We're being good stewards of our resources. Are we donating? Are we saving? Are we just making sure that we are aware, like you said, of what's going on in our wallets? What
Yeah.
is happening in there?
Right. It goes back to the wedding because now we moving on to which I call this the next phase, which is the set it and forget it phase, though, of your
Mhm.
wallet. Because we talked about like how you're setting up your boundaries. And one of the ways to set up your boundaries is something called the 50-30-20 rule. I like this rule a little better. There's so many other rules out there, but this rule is talking about the 50% of your money goes towards your needs, like your light bill, your house, like your car, like you're taking care of self. Then the 30% goes towards your wants. So, like, hey, if you want those snacks that you want to have your fat snacks while you watching House of the Dragon or something like
Not
that.
fast snacks.
I mean, I call them fat snacks. I love the fat snacks. Like, I always got some, like some chips, some cookies, man. I have that money set aside for that. And then you get your 20% saved up for your savings. Now, I usually do for savings, I usually do the 10-10 rule. So it's like 10% towards savings, and then the other 10% is for investments. So
Mm.
that goes towards like I'm playing around in the stock market and stuff like that. So it's not really a big portion of my income. So I'm okay with that 10% being invested somewhere.
Mm.
Even if you want to go even smaller, because I mean, remember we talked about the gift for people that want to that you want to help out from time to time. You can probably put some of that 30% of your wants, make that somebody else's rainy day fund, that want fund, make it
Right.
like a little 5% of that. So you can play around with the numbers, but these are the big golden rules is the 50, 30, 20 rule.
I like that. I heard that before. And you know what? Something else I heard was from the budgetista, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany. I love
Lisa.
her.
Yep.
She was like, try to live off of half of your income. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you're saying too with that 50%. Like, yo, if something happened, I need to be able to be okay with half of what I am bringing in. So I'm not like broke, or like some people say they'll be house poor because they
Mm-hmm.
will get the biggest mortgage they can get, and then they can't even afford to do anything else. Like, God forbid something happen, and then
Right.
all you can do is afford to live in a house. Like, you can't even pay nothing. Like, that's all you got is the house. Like, so I think that
Yeah.
it's
Well,
important, like you said.
I want to add on to the house board thing, because when you move in with your spouse or somebody that you're dating and stuff like that, you want to combine households to some degree. One of the things that I've heard from, I'm giving his props, Dave Ramsey. He said this before, and I actually recommend, like, I highly recommend it, is to make sure that when you're looking for a mortgage or you're looking for your rent, you want it to where the person that makes the least in the household actually can afford it, so that the person that makes the most, if for any reason that person, if any one of you guys lose your jobs, the rent or mortgage is still being taken care of. So if you want to look at it that way.
That's amazing. Or said another way,
Mhm.
make sure that the rent is a price that one person can afford by themselves.
Yes. Well, the lowest person, no, the lowest person.
Right.
Because
But
I
you
mean,
single, we gotta adapt that.
right. Oh, yeah.
Because you might
Yes.
not have that person, or like God forbid they pass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's important too. Like, what, like in any case, like, is this something I can afford by myself? Is it
Right.
reasonable? Yeah. So I like that too. But it just like to piggyback off of that a little bit more. You said 50-30-20 rule for just how we handle our finances. Are there any other keys that you can share? Any practical tips about being financially healthy besides that?
Yeah. Have everything on automation. Um, because with your bank, I mean, with your mortgage, not your bank, your mortgage, with your employer, when you get your bank account, your bank account, your paycheck, it's a long time ago. Like we used to get the actual paper checks. So you had to go to the store and like to your actual employer, get the check and
Mhm.
everything like that, deposit, fun stuff. But now because everything has become so automated in the back end, you can actually go to your employer and say like, "Hey, I want to allocate, I don't know, 80%, or you can set them up to how many things you want to do. So you can have 3 accounts set up. Some people have 12 accounts or more. I personally have about 6 different accounts for different things. So it's like you have your main checking account that comes in. You can have your another checking account that takes care of your annual expenses or your biannual expenses, like your car insurance, your homeowners insurance. Have that set up to the side. That's one account. Then you can have another account for us like your wants that are monthly expenses, like your light bill, your cell phone bill, your water bill, and stuff like that. That can be a whole nother account. And then when you go to these different accounts, you can actually have them automatically only pull from that pool of money. Then you have your wants, which I call it, like usually I have like a high yield savings account as well. So I put the high yield savings account, the money come from uh my employer, go directly to that. So it's like a set it and forget it. Everything is on automation. So I was highly recommend that you, this goes back to the awareness, where you're spending your money and knowing what those are, so that you can now start automating that process. Okay, I only want, $20 of my paycheck every time I get paid to go into my wants, or I want $100 every time I get paid to go into my high yield savings account, so that you can actually put it off to the side and like, hey, this is what's in my actual bank account that I'm willing to spend for anything that's coming up. You have all your emergencies account funded. You have your high yield savings accounts funded. You have your children's account. If you have children, you can throw them in there. Like having all of this set up and automated is such the next. I would say is the next thing that I highly recommend. But again, don't trust anybody on the internet. Make sure you do
I
your
know
due
that's
diligence
right.
right.
Because when you just said that, I was like, I could see myself getting so confused with all these accounts. I would just try to have something like personally. I'll be like, okay, let's just have a savings.
Right.
Let's have an investment. Let's
Mhm.
have a checking account.
Yeah.
And like you said, like some type of Roth IRA or some 401k to the side. Because I'll be like, listen, I'll be no forgot. Okay, this was supposed to be over here, and then carry the one and divide by two. I'll be like, what? So,
Hilarious,
like,
yeah.
that might work for some people. That's why it's important too to know your money personality. For real,
Hmm.
because everybody got a different money personality. I'll be like, hold up now.
Right.
I might need to simplify and have like 4, and you can have 12, but I'm gonna need
Yeah.
4 because the way my brain.
It's,
But
but you got to start small, and like I said, the smart start small and just start, like put one account off to the side and you can do it manually, just manually transfer every time you get paid. And then you're like, you know what? Since I'm doing this manually, let me go ahead on and start automating. And this is the reason why I like the saying, well, I kind of hate the saying work harder, not I mean work smarter, not harder. But you can't work smarter if you never work harder.
right.
So it's like you have to do the work first before you try to make it a smart move, you know?
Right, to make sure you do your due diligence and things like that. And like you were saying about the accounts and the setting and forgetting it, would you suggest some type of stopgap, such as having your accounts at different locations or having a waiting period of like say 72 hours so you can't touch said money in these different accounts?
Yeah. So I do a out of sight, out of mind account. So that's my high yield savings account. Mostly that's what I want my money to go in. It does its thing. And if I need it, and that's kind of like my emergency fund. So
Right.
right now I'm trying to work on getting up to at least a year of actual living expenses into that account. And then after that, then I will probably cut off the automation because it's like in case I lose my job, I at least have a year to kind of get to another job.
Yourself together.
Right.
Yeah.
Because each
I
industry
like
is a little different. Yeah.
I would say, I don't know if you would agree with this, but the way that you're setting up your accounts, it also depends on your lifestyle.
Yes.
So it's like if you're single, it's gonna be a little smaller scale to this, but if you're married, it's gonna be a little bit more. But if you have kids, that's another layer. So
Hmm.
it's like you gotta be considering all factors, like, and
Oh,
what
and
is
pets too, because people love
yeah,
them dogs. Like,
okay, gotta get that and
cats.
that pet insurance.
You're right.
So it's like, okay, let me see here. Okay, what's retirement like? How am I living beyond me working at this 9 to 5? Can I maintain what I'm doing now? That's what a lot of people are saying. When I watch these financial podcasts, can I still live how I'm living as I'm without working anymore, and or trying to have the passive income. And people are talking about make sure you had a 529 account for the children. And then it's like, make sure I got the 401k, the Roth IRA. Just make sure you have different things set up. Don't just rely on the pension. Don't just rely on all of those things that just like social security, whatever. Have different streams of income, different things going on. And I feel like I'm a baby in this thing, and like I learn a lot because my mom sometimes she's watch stuff like that, she getting into that kind of stuff more. But
Yeah.
child, it's
Good.
like it's a lot to learn, a lot to consider. You gave us so much to chew on too,
Yeah.
because it's like, ooh, how many people out there don't even have one account? They still check cashing at the
Yeah.
check cashing place, paying all that those fees.
Oh, I've been there. I used to cut my checks cash there as well, because I didn't trust the banks,
Yeah, a
and
lot of people
because
say that.
yeah. But the thing about it, I had to realize that the bank is really my friend, and some people will disagree with me. However, that is what other institution that you go to, you put money into them, and then they providing you with financial education at the same time. Like they are giving you the game and how they work, how does the bank work, how that you can actually grow your money, how to actually save and spend your money. So they give you all of these tools and resources. A lot of people just don't tap into it. Chase, if you guys have Chase credit cards or anything like that, they always give me like little quizzes every day. They're like, hey, what is the percentage of people who actually like the house buying process, or what is considered a Roth IRA? Have you thought about opening up a Roth IRA? What is a Roth IRA? Like, what are these different things that we're talking about? But also keep in mind that the tax code changes a lot. It actually changes every year because you mentioned the 529. I want to piggyback on that. That recently, for those of you who have 529s, if your child decides not to go to school, you can actually roll that over to your Roth IRA. So, in other words, it's still growing tax free. You're still getting all of this money.
Ooh, without
So,
taking it out.
without taking it out, right? And then on top of that, because you only tax on the money that you actually touch. So because it goes from account to account, you're not getting taxed on that money. Go right on over to your Roth just because your child didn't go to school or your grandchild or whatever. So a lot of people who are investing in those and they was like, man, all this money just going to waste. And luckily somebody lobbied for that to happen. So these tax codes going to like this is at the 2024. That's the way how it is right now, but it could be changing by the time you listen to this in 2026 or 2028. I mean, who knows?
Wow. That is important to stay aware of what's happening in those different circles. There's just so much to think about when it comes to money. It's beyond just buying things and just saving. You have to think
Yes.
about investing. You got to think about what your life gonna look like in retirement. How about legacy, like something that can last beyond you. And that's something that I think as a single person in my mid 30s, I'm like, okay, so what does life look like beyond this time? And it can be terrifying to think about, but I just thank God that knowledge is power, and
Yes.
that we are going to be more empowered the more we just seek out these reputable sources of information on finance. We can feel empowered no matter who we are and what stage of life we're in.
Yeah, and to help build that confidence, which is guess you could say the third talking point, or the last talking point, really, that I would say for everybody is to, again, remember we were talking about starting small.
Hmm.
Start small with paying off a credit card. You want to build that confidence. It's not an overnight thing. So, in order to do that, you have to be consistent with what your goal is. And it goes back to the very beginning is finding out that awareness of where's everything at. Once you find that awareness, now you're automating things. Now you're starting to get your small wins. Hey, I actually saved $100 in my high yield savings account. Or even you just got your high yield savings account. Like that is a win. This is something that you're moving towards your financial future, and really take advantage of the progress that you're making, because education is the legacy. Nobody can take it away from you once you gain it. That's the only thing that you can gain and nobody can take away. Everybody can take away this house. They can take away your laptop. They can take away the internet. They can take away anything else. But the education that you have and that confidence to know that you put in the work, even if it's a small win, take it. You deserve it. You actually like celebrate you. You know what I'm saying? Like take that little
Right.
extra $5 and go to I don't know, your favorite restaurant or something like that, and just be like, hey, I just opened up my savings account. What I'm saying? Like I'm excited about it because you wouldn't like say like this could be the last time you go out to this restaurant, or you save it to like maybe like an annual thing and be like, you know what, hey, I just put in $1,000 into my high yield savings account or something
Wow.
like that. Like, that's a big win. Celebrate your progress because nobody else will.
I think that that's an awesome takeaway because I usually ask for a seed, but that is an awesome takeaway for the
Oh,
listeners. Celebrate yourself,
yeah.
celebrate the small wins. I like
Mm,
that. I really do.
yeah.
So, are there any projects that you are currently working on that you want to share?
Yeah. So the projects that I'm working on now is that during my live shows, I am focusing more on the offense. the how to's, because a lot of people come to me with a lot of how to questions. So I decided to start gearing my live shows into how to. So recently, I just finished up a 4-part series called "How to Actually Put a Digital Product Up on Amazon." So if you watch that from end to end, you can create your own product.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I
That's
just created a 2025 little journal. Like, people
oh,
watch me do
okay.
this with the little duck.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I
and
think I
then
saw that thumbnail on YouTube.
yeah, that was from it. So, and then to think about something, to actually have it physically in hand, to understand that everything that we see, somebody had to think about it. Everything that we're doing and utilizing, somebody had to think about it. So don't feel as though you're behind the 8 ball and that it's too much saturation in the world. No, like, there's more than one car out there. Not everybody's driving the same Ford car.
Right.
Everybody's driving so many different manufacturers, and most of the manufacturers come with different varieties of stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like you're in a bubble. You're not a bubble. You are a person. You are made to create. You are made to consume. This is what we do.
That's what's up. I like that. That's really interesting because a lot of times we do think, oh, I can't do it. Everybody did that. No, but they
Mhm.
didn't do it how you did it though.
Exactly. And your story is going to be different because people buy things on stories. Like, think about your headscarf, right? You're like, hey,
Mhm.
this is the first headscarf that I ever went live on. And I want to make sure I cherish this headscarf. I'm putting it up and framing it or whatever. And people's like, oh, it's a headscarf. Who cares about that? But it has a story. And if you were to go to sell it or something like that, you'd be like, hey, this scarf right here started off my whole show.
Oh,
And that's what I do. So,
yeah, it is about those memories and it, and having yourself in a place where you're financially healthy, you can create good memories too,
mhm.
by doing that. And then like those milestones, like you said, those are memories. So it's important to really just keep track of your progress and celebrate it. So yeah, so how can everybody connect with you?
Okay, so you can connect with me at aboutthatwallet.com. You can follow me and hang out if you want to, on Instagram, Twitter, or even on YouTube at About That Wallet. So come hang out, shoot me a DM, and let me know where you found me so I can actually be giving credit to people where they are. Celebrate the wins. You know what I'm saying? Let's celebrate a win with me.
Yes, and we can also find you at aboutthatwallet.com, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Yes.
on that page, I'm trying to add some more information in there, throw some blogs up there and
Mhm.
stuff like that, so you can find all the resources that you need.
Oh, that's amazing. So, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode. I thank y'all for your support. Now, if you are watching, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment and share for more content if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening, make sure that you take the poll, you leave a review, a rating, or a comment on Spotify. And last but not least, make sure you follow me at B Channel 27 on all social platforms. Don't y'all worry, all the tea on Anthony will be in the description of this episode as well. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and peace and blessings until next time, y'all.